changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, I'm Leah Bowen, and I want to start off today by telling you a story. So when I was 10 years old, my dad came up with this idea to go 21 consecutive days without complaining, criticizing, or gossiping. So we got the idea when he was teaching a lesson at our local church about Edwene Gaines' book, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And in it, she suggests going 21 consecutive days without complaining, criticizing, or gossiping. It truly was a great idea with one kind of flaw. How do you know what day you're on? So, as my dad was taking a shower one day, he thought of the Livestrong bracelets. You guys remember those? So those little yellow bracelets, and he asked our office manager to go to the party supply store and pick up 250 of these little purple bands, and they said spirit on them. So he gathered them all up, and he brought them to church, and he gave his lesson, and he handed out the bracelets and said, "Don't complain for 21 days. Here's the bracelet. Okay, bye. Thank you very much." And he thought nothing more of it. We went home, had lunch, and he got up on Monday morning, started writing a speech for the next week, and all of a sudden, all these requests started coming in for more bracelets. People wanted this little band. They wanted them for their work. They wanted them for their households. They wanted them for anybody that had a wrist, okay? And then all of a sudden, it just got huge. I mean, it got huge. We started off on our local paper, and then we went places like Oprah, the Today Show, CBS News, ABC News, Fox News Channel, and so many more. We've even been featured in tons of different periodicals, including People Magazine. And I can say that I was in People Magazine, because you can see me in the little pink jumpsuit. Obviously, they let me pick out my own outfit. So, how did this tiny little idea turn into what 60 Minutes called a worldwide phenomenon? People get good ideas every single day. How did this go from 250 little bracelets to over 11 million bracelets that have been distributed in over 106 countries? 2 reasons. 1, there's too much complaining in the world. If you agree, raise your hand. Okay, if I see a single hand down, somebody's lying. 2, the world is not the way that we want it. If you agree, raise your hand. All right, I like some of the idealists that aren't raising their hand, but that's cool. All right, so let's get into what exactly is a complaint. Because let's just say that those two are completely correlated. So to complain is to express grief, pain, or discontent. And notice the word that's highlighted, express. If you think nothing but negative thoughts and say only positive ones, first of all, that's impressive. And second of all, it's not a complaint unless it's verbalized. If you say nothing but positive things, you haven't complained. So we'd like to expand this definition a little bit more and say that a complaint is an energetic statement that focuses on the problem at hand rather than the solution sought. Let that sink in. If you're standing there looking at a problem and all you see is the problem and all you're focusing on is the problem, how are you going to notice a solution that's there? All right, so I know what all of you are thinking. I'm tuning into my psychic abilities. Almost every single person in here is thinking that my next however long I've got is going to be me telling you to shut up, suck up, and just pretend the world is happy hunky-dory and you just don't have a complaint. That's insane. And it's not productive. So I want to drive this home before I go any further. It is not a complaint to speak directly and only to the person who can resolve the issue. Eckhart Tolle said it so well when he said, complaining is not to be confused with informing someone of a mistake or a deficiency that needs to be put right. And to refrain from complaining does not necessarily mean putting up with bad quality or behavior. There is no ego in telling the waiter that your soup is cold and needs to be heated up, if you stick to the facts, which are neutral. I'll come back to that. How dare you serve me cold soup? Now that's a complaint. So I want to run some things by you, get your opinion on something, okay? It's really hot out today. Like, it's really hot. It's like 106. Is that a complaint? No. Let me try it again. I can do better. Oh my God! It was so hot outside, I thought it was gonna melt. I thought for sure that as I was walking in my car to this building, I was gonna melt. It was gonna be a Leah puddle in the parking lot. Is that a complaint? Yeah. Absolutely. Why? Same idea. You got the point across that it's hot outside. I mean, now you have the visual image of a Leah puddle. But the difference is the amount of energy that you put into it. You can inform someone of something and have it not be a complaint. So I want to tell you guys a little bit of a story, okay? So when I was in high school and my early years of college, I worked at a car wash. And I was the person that was like outside taking like the customer's kind of order and whatever, bringing them up in the computer and sending them on their merry way. Well, this meant that obviously they're not getting out of their car to buy a car wash. So I was standing outside for like a good 90% of the year. And we were open when it was 107 outside, and we were open when it was -11. And I actually worked on a day when it was -11. But the wonderful thing was we had this little booth, and it was glass on 3 sides so we could see if a car was coming, so we could scurry out there. But in the booth, it was no more than 2 people at a time, normally just 1 person. And we had our own AC and heating unit. So in the summer, it was like 68 degrees in there. In the winter, it was 82. You wanna know why those numbers? That was the extreme that it would go. So one day, it was really cold, like it was snowing. And even though we would always be open, we wouldn't always have customers, especially if it was snowing. So I knew this. I was ready to go. I had my book, I had my little bag of snacks, and I was all ready to go. So I'm walking down there, and keep in mind, it's glass all the way around. So I see a girl sitting in there, and it's a girl I'm about ready to leave, so she's about to go home. And she's bundled up on par with the Eskimo. I mean, she's got a scarf up to here. She's got a hat down to here. She's got gloves. She has an oversized Carhartt coat. And I can see the breath, like her breath fogging. I'm like, what in the world? So I get down there and I walk into the booth, and it's cold. I mean, it's a little bit warmer than it is outside, but it's cold in there. And I said, hey, and she goes, "Arr!" I'm like, okay. So I go to the little back of the booth and I start fiddling with the heater. She goes, don't you think I tried that? I didn't think so since it was cold in here, but she goes, it's been broken since I got here. I have been here for 5 hours, shivering my butt off. And I said, have you told a manager about this? Oh yeah, like they care. They pay us minimum wage, which we got paid above minimum wage, but she goes, we get paid minimum wage to stand down here and freeze and sweat, and this is just, and it's just become an incoherent angriness. She takes off her radio, grabs her stuff, and storms out. And I'm like, okay. And so I grab the radio and I put it on. And keep in mind, especially on slow days, no one else comes down to the booth. It is you, yourself, and me, okay, when you're down there. And so managers don't come down there unless we ask them to. So I get on the radio and I go, so you're probably not aware of this, which, by the way, is a great way to start something that you may need to have a difficult conversation with someone, because it removes that sort of, you did this to me mentality that often leads to complaints. So I said, you're probably not aware of this, but the heater's broken in here. And there's a little bit of silence, and then there is a frenzy of people all trying to talk at once over the radio. They had no idea. They had no clue. She had never said anything to anyone. And so within 15 minutes, one of our managers had gone over to a Home Depot, which was like right next door, and bought me a space heater and brought it down in my little booth. And within an hour and a half, there was someone down there fixing the AC unit. And 2 hours later, when I got there, I had a working unit and a space heater that they let us keep down there. It was like a $100 space heater. It's designed to heat like a huge, about a room the size of this one. Okay, that's exaggerating, but still, it was a really nice space heater. They let us keep it down there in case it ever happened again. Me talking to the manager, was that a complaint? Was the dozens of texts that girl probably sent to everyone she knew in her contacts list, was that a complaint? Yes. Complaining keeps us focused on the problem. Like I said, you can't find a solution if all you're looking at is the problem. You can't see the ray of heat if you're just focusing on the cold. All right, I want to tell you guys another little story. It's about two guys. They work in construction. And every day they have lunch together. And the first guy, he opens up his lunchbox, and he goes, "You've got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. A meatloaf sandwich. Meatloaf. Okay." And the second guy is just like, eats his lunch. The next day, first guy opens up his lunchbox. "This is inedible. Why would anyone eat this?" The second guy looks at him, and first guy goes, "Meatloaf. Meatloaf sandwich. Could you make meatloaf any worse? Yes, I know. Put it on bread." He throws it in his lunchbox and he goes, second guy doesn't say anything. The third day, guy opens up his box, and he grabs the sandwich. He goes, "I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. Meatloaf sandwich. Day in, day out. I can't take it." The second guy finally goes, "Dude, why don't you ask whoever makes your lunch to pack something different?" And the first guy looks at the sandwich crumpled up in his hands and goes, "I make my own lunch." You make your own lunch. How can you expect different results if all you're doing is the same thing? Y'all, that is a definition of insanity. Okay? Complaining is also damaging to your health. Have you ever met a happy hypochondriac? No! Chronic complainers, and this is according to science, not just some person standing in front of you, chronic complainers they sleep poorly, they're more stressed, they're more likely to have heart disease, heart attack, and even stroke. And I'm sure a lot of people in this audience are going, "Well, I'm not a chronic complainer." It's kind of like, I only smoke one cigarette every 12 weeks. Y'all, no, don't lie to me. You don't wake up in the morning with a complaint quota of like 1 or 2, and then like once you've said them, you're like, "Oh, I'm done, thank you. That's all for me today." No. It's a lifestyle, and that's a lifestyle. Complaining also destroys relationships. Let me put it this way. Everyone wants to be married to Winnie the Pooh, but everybody wants to be Eeyore. You want to come home after a long day and go, you won't believe the day I've had. And your significant other goes, oh, honey, tell me all about it. Here's your favorite meal. Here's your favorite drink. I love you. You look wonderful today. I want to hear all about your woes. No. You want to know why? Because you don't want to do that. And I guarantee your significant other, or really anyone you're in a relationship with, whether it be a friend, coworker, they don't want that either. My mom has a whole bunch of coworkers that every weekend they get together and they go for what they call group therapy, which is in the summer they go to the pool, and then in the winter they go, I don't really know where they go, but they go somewhere. They do the same thing though. They get together, they drink way too much, and they talk about what they have come to as the conclusion of the universe, which is all men are dogs. All of them, every last one of them. I mean, somebody walks by and they're like, woof. And so they get done, they sober up a little bit, and they go home, and lo and behold, there's a puppy sitting in the lazy boy. By not only complaining to the person you're with, but complaining about them, it is detrimental to relationships. Think about your significant other going out and complaining to all of their friends about you, and you're trying your hardest. That's what you're doing when you're complaining about someone else. Complaining limits career success. I'm going to tell y'all another story. So I worked at this office, and it was a very unique office in the sense that it was at a university, but they dealt exclusively with international students. This meant that we worked with students from the day they arrived in the US until a year and a half after they graduated. They would be in the United States anywhere from 3.5 to 12 years. Some of them never going home, many of them coming here to learn English so they don't speak any English when they come into our office. And so it was a very unique atmosphere, and it had to hire very unique people. So our third from the top advisor, so they were the third in the office as far as the hierarchy goes. They found a better job opportunity, had a kid or whatever. They had to go find a different job, so that left a very large vacancy in our office. They tried hiring people for months, people outside the office, and it simply wasn't qualified. Some of the qualifications to work in this office is that you had to have traveled to at least 10 other countries, and you had to speak multiple languages. Not as a, hey, look how cool our office is. We have cool people. No. It was simply so you could better understand the people who you were dealing with on a daily basis. So after months of interviewing people, everyone came up short. So then the people who were hiring turned to the people within the office and said, somebody, we can fill one of y'all's positions better than we can fill this one. Please apply. And so 2 women within the office applied. 1, let's call her Mary, and 2, let's call her Susan. Mary was a delight. She was so sweet. Everything about her just was wonderful. To give you an idea of the type of person Mary was, 2 days before she was going to leave for a recruiting trip to India, the pipes in her basement burst. It wasn't water that burst out. Oh, yeah. So she came in, and this is the day before she's leaving now. And we said, what are you going to do? You're going to be gone in India for a month. And she goes, yeah, really, the timing couldn't be better. What? She goes, yeah, I'm going to be out of town for 3 weeks. My husband is going to be out of town for 2 weeks. He leaves the day after I do. So we're going to have a contracting team come in, they're going to clean it all up, and they'll be done by the time we get home. I was like, wow. I've been wearing this thing forever. I would not have handled it that way. And then you had Susan. She was a wonderful worker, had been in the office far longer than Mary had. She spoke multiple languages. She had traveled to numerous different countries. But she always kind of greeted you the same. Hi, Susan, how are you? What's going good with you? What'd you do this weekend? And then just came out a stream of complaints. It could have been, I had a front row seat at a concert of my dreams, and he sweated on me. It was disgusting. I'm like, have you never heard of eBay? That's the type of person that she was. So these are the two people that applied. Susan was far more qualified than Mary was. Guess who got the position? Mary. And I went to the people who were hiring, and I said, why? Not because I thought they made the wrong decision. They just hired my new boss, and I thought she was wonderful, okay? But I said, why did you hire her? And she said, well, on paper, they were identical. Susan actually had a lot more characteristics that were better. I said, okay. That doesn't answer my question because you didn't hire her. She said, well, it kind of came down to how they interviewed. And I said, what does that mean? She goes, they were themselves in the interview. If that's not telling, I don't know what is. No one wants to work with a chronic complainer, including the people who were hiring you. And last but not least, complaining is a competitive sport. Don't believe me? Let me run a little scenario through y'all, or by y'all. So when I was in college, my first year at like a big kid campus, I thought it would be a great idea, since I was living on campus, to like get the early classes like out of the way so I could have like free time. Y'all, what was that? Anyway, so I had an 8:30 Shakespeare class. I like Shakespeare, not at 8:30. So I go in one day and I'm sitting there and I've got my coffee and my sweatpants and I'm just like, people kind of behind me talking. And one girl goes, girl asks her, what's wrong? I went to bed at 2 o'clock last night. I am so tired. Ugh. And the girl that asked her goes, really? I went to bed at 4 o'clock last night and then had a 30-minute drive to here. And this guy leans up and he goes, I'm an insomniac. I haven't slept for a week. And then another person goes, my uncle's brother's best friend's niece? She's an insomniac. She didn't sleep for so long, she died. Everyone's like, you win. You don't believe me? It's a competitive sport? Let's do the reverse. Guy walks in. My uncle's cousin's best friend's niece. I'm impressed, I remembered that. She's an insomniac. She didn't sleep for a month and she died. And then the girl goes, well, I went to bed at 2 last night and I'm really tired. Everyone would look at her and go, unless you have died, you don't get to play this game. All right, so I've told you everything that is wrong with complaining and all of the effects that it has on you, your job, the people you love. Now I want to tell you why people complain. They complain for one of 5 reasons. You can count it on your hands, so I don't expect you to forget any of this, okay? That's unrealistic, but we're going to go for it. The acronym, and we have an acronym, is G-R-I-P. Does anyone want to guess what the last letter is? E. It's Q. No, I'm kidding. It's E. The acronym spells gripe. All right, so I gotta stop real quick, and I need to tell you guys something. This is kind of a warning, okay? Pay attention. I'm going to tell you all the reasons why people complain. And when you stand up to leave here today, your life is going to suck. Because you are going to hear complaints like you've never heard them before. It is going to be painful. You're just going to go, I hate that lady. But you're not. Because I'm also going to tell you how to get people to stop complaining around you. But I just had to get that little PSA out there. Okay, so the first reason why people complain is to get attention. People complain to get attention more than they do to get for any of these other reasons combined. You want to know why? Having someone notice you is a basic human need. We are herd-based animals. Going back to the cavemen, if someone didn't notice you, you didn't get fed and you died. That's not a story, I don't know what is. You want people to notice you and people want you to notice them. And so the default is to go, oh my God, it's so hot outside, I thought I would go and turn into a puddle in the parking lot. All of a sudden, you've got a conversation. Well, I went to Arizona last year, and it's a connection. It's communication. You also do this, or you hear this rather, when communicating with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers. They'll come to you and complain about their spouse, or their boss, or whoever, as a way of drawing you into conversation. But do you really want to sit there and have a negative conversation every time you talk to somebody? No. If you do, bye-bye. So there's one magic phrase to get people to stop complaining to you to get their attention. And it's very simple. You ask them, what's going well? What's going well with your son? What's going well with your coworker? What's going well with your crazy aunt? Nothing? That's fine. One of two things will happen when you ask this question. One, they will tell you what's going well. Or two, they will stop talking to you. And either way, you win, y'all. All right, so before we go back, what's the first reason why people complain? I want to hear it. Get attention. There it is. All right. The second reason why people complain is to remove responsibility. All right, so what this means is that someone comes to you with a task and they say, all right, I need you to have this done by the end of the day. And you're sitting here thinking, my day is packed full with playing on my computer and making sure you don't walk past my desk. And so you start giving them all these reasons. Well, Carol in accounting, she's not going to be able to get that back to me in time for this to happen. And I mean, my computer's been running so slow, it's going to take me 10 minutes just to load the document. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. What that person's wanting, who's giving out all these excuses, is for you to go, oh, wow, you're so busy, and go hand it off on somebody else. No. And if you're the person presenting that task, your default is to go, well, can't you use someone else's computer? I can call accounting for you. That would be, I could do that. Why are you doing their job for them? The simplest way to turn this around so that you're no longer having to do their job for them and figure out how they can make this all better is to ask, well, if it were possible, how might you do it? I guess I could not play on my computer. It spins it around. I have a really good friend of mine who's an ambassador, or an advisor rather, I beg your pardon, at a big car dealership. And so he is kind of like the mediator between the customer and the mechanic. And he says after 5 o'clock, all the mechanics are like, nope, I'm not working anymore. And they're open until 6. Like they can take a customer's ticket at 5:55. And so a customer came in at 5:15 on a Friday, and all she needed was an oil change. She was leaving the next day for a cross-country road trip, and she wanted an oil change because she was going to be driving her whole family, She wanted to be able to drive there and back. And so he goes, absolutely, ma'am, we got plenty of time. Keep in mind, oil change takes like 10 to 15 minutes. So he takes her information, he goes back and he goes, hi, I'd like for you to do this. All the mechanics go, well, I mean, I don't think it's going to be able to get done. My bay is super dirty. I mean, I got to clean this. I'm not going to be here tomorrow. There's somebody else who's going to be in here. I got to make sure my tools are organized. And my friend kept telling me about this, and I said, ask him if it were possible, how might you do it? Because he was trying to bribe them, okay? Because he gets commission on everything he sells, where they get paid, a normal salary. So he started asking them, well, if it were possible, how might you do it? Well, I guess I can get Henry to clean up my tools for me. Well, I guess I could just leave a note for tomorrow, whoever comes in, to get them to make sure my box is all organized. And my friend came to me and he goes, got any more of those magic spells? And I'm like, all it is a question. All right, so before we go back and I give you all the answers, what does the G stand for? Get attention. R, remove responsibility. Awesome. I stands for inspire envy. This is also the humble brag. I have a friend of mine, she just got married. And with getting married, she not only got a husband, but she got 2 beautiful daughters. They are so sweet. I think they're sweet. You always think someone else's kids are a lot cuter, so you don't have to put them to bed every night, but whatever. So anyway, she went from driving this adorable little bug, this Volkswagen Bug, to needing a big 3-rows SUV with the cameras and the everything you could ever want in a car kind of thing. So she picked me up one day in her brand new car, and I hadn't seen it yet. And I mean, it's beautiful. They went all out because they want to have another baby and maybe another one. I'm like, I'm not babysitting anymore, but whatever. And so she wanted this big car, and she got it. So I hop in the front seat, and we're going to IKEA. And she goes, we're driving down the highway, and she goes, for a $40,000 SUV, you think that it would have dual climate control. With that statement, she was not telling me I wish it had climate control. That was not the goal of her complaint. It was, I bought a $40,000 car. That's the goal. It's the humble brag. It's also her way of saying, do climate control. Not having that, it's beneath me. That's what she's wanting to tell you. She wants to drive that home, that this car is better than your car. And I'm like, yeah, I drive a Prius. That's all it is. They want you to notice that big, beautiful thing that they just got, or this amazing accomplishment that they've done. And so, give it to them. Compliment them. Compliment the opposite. If they come to you and go, for a $40,000 car, I thought it'd come with dual climate control. You can counter with, well, it is a beautiful car. That's all they wanted. That's all they wanted. Okay? All right, before we go back, again, I'm quizzing y'all. G, get attention. R, remove responsibility. I, inspire envy. P stands for power. I also like to call this the mean girl complaint. Has anybody here seen the movie Mean Girls? If you have, raise your hand. Okay, yes, Lindsay Lohan, all that big crew. That entire movie is a perfect example of complaining to get power. Oh my God, Becky is the worst. Have you seen her? She can't even do a back handspring. Oh, she's atrocious. The goal of this person complaining about Becky is, you should get on my side so when I challenge her for cheer captain next week, I have an army. That's all it is. They want you to go, well, come here. Let's talk bad about Becky. Now, in the real world setting, when I worked in an office, we had this big, fancy printer installed. It was huge. It was beautiful. It was smarter than I was, okay? It talked to computers on like the other side of campus. And so my desk was kind of next to the printer. And we had a new person come in, and she had never been with this sort of copier printer before. And she didn't really know what she was doing. But when it came to training, she was just like, yeah, I got this, we're cool. So then I would be sitting there, and there was this one person who would always come up to me and go, and I'm going to use the name Becky just because it makes me giggle. She goes, oh my goodness, Becky cannot figure out how to use that printer. I asked her to print one thing, double-sided. You want to know what I got? 50 pages, one-sided. She didn't even get the backside. She's expecting me to go, oh my God, I know. I sit here and watch her all day long and she just messes up and how terrible is she and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, that's all it really sounds like, okay? So if you don't want to get sucked into this, which I don't really think any sane person does, all you have to do is say one thing to them. Sounds like y'all have a lot to talk about. Well, no, I'm talking to you. I want to tell you all the reasons that Becky's the worst. Oh, I mean, I can't do anything to change that. Sounds like you two have a lot to talk about. And same with the get attention. One or two things is going to happen. One, they're going to go talk to Becky, and they're going to resolve it, and it's going to be wonderful. And all of a sudden, Becky knows how to use the copier. Or two, they're going to stop talking to you. And either way, you win. All right, so I didn't make y'all go through it like I did, but I am going to have you go through all of them now. Read them, okay? G stands for attention. R, remove responsibility. I,
inspire envy.
P, power. Now E,
Excuse poor performance.
hey, you're not just parrots. Woo! Now, this is the past tense of remove responsibility. This is when you gave them a task, they didn't do it all that good, and now they're trying to get themselves out of it. I saw this firsthand when I was with my dad down in Disney World. So we flew down there for this big speech. But I mean, when you're in Orlando, you go to Disney World. I mean, come on. So it was our last day there, and we really turned it into a big trip, and it was wonderful. It was so much fun. So it was our last day there, and while we were staying at our resort, there were cheerleading competitions going on. And I mean, we got there, and one day later, one ended, we had a day break, and then another one showed up. So I mean, there's cheerleaders everywhere, and they all have a little pass to get into any of the parks. But they have so many activities going on every day that they really only can go to the park for like 2 to 3 hour windows, which if anybody's been to Disney, that's really not that much time. But it was a perk of being able to go down and perform and compete at Disney World. So it was our last day there. We were having a great time. We were going to Epcot. And so we did stay at a Disney facility, or a Disney resort rather. And the really great thing about staying at a Disney resort is then all the buses come and pick you up and take you straight to a park. And there was 9 stops around our little resort. And then whatever bus you got on, it only took you to one park and then back. And because we were the last stop, it was literally buses came every 20 minutes. You got on the bus, and within 10 to 12 minutes, they actually tell you 10 to 12 minutes, you're at the park. It was incredible. It was wonderful. Talk about completely stress-free. So we get on, and I'm taking pictures of Dad and all this, and he's just like, he's on day 5, he's like, I look the same. I was like, no, there's another wrinkle. No, I would never say that. I wouldn't have a job anymore. Just kidding. So anyway, so we get on the bus, and we're fiddling around on our phones and all this. And it was wonderful because we were going to Epcot. Like, no one goes to Epcot anymore because it's just the walking around, seeing all the different countries. They've got a few really cool rides, but it's more just the atmosphere of it. And so there's like nobody on the bus. There's like no traffic because it was relatively early in the day. So we're on the bus and we are at Epcot in like 9 minutes, if that. And by the time we walked up, to get on the bus, we waited like 2 minutes. So it has been an 11-minute experience from when we showed up to the bus stop to when we showed up to Epcot. That was not the case for the woman sitting behind us, or so she was telling her husband over the phone. So she was one of the cheer moms. So she had a group of cheerleaders with her, and they only had a certain amount of time at the park. So they had loaded everybody up, and they were going to go to the park for a few hours, and then they had to be back for a competition. Well, this is what I heard her tell her husband on the phone. Okay. No, we're just pulling up. No. I'm like, hello. She goes, no, we sat at a stoplight for 15 minutes. We waited 15 minutes to turn right. I'm not even kidding. My dad and I are looking at each other going, what stoplight? I'm like, we were on our phones and we're like, maybe there was a 15-minute stoplight. We looked at our clock and we're like, no. Like, what stoplight is she referring to? I don't think we stopped. Maybe leaving the resort? She goes, no, it's not my fault. No, I wasn't late. How dare you think that of me? No, we were there on time. We waited so long for the bus to even get there, and then the ride took like 30 minutes, and no, we're just walking up. Well, I know we only have 45 more minutes in the park, but it's not my fault. I did everything I could. Well, and like, we all kind of disembarked the bus, and I mean, we can still hear her screaming into the phone as we're like scanning our little bands to go into the park. And my dad and I step aside and we just look at each other. And I said, wow. And he goes, yeah. Who knew you could both be on one bus, but be in 2 different time zones? I just went, I know! It was clear. I mean, to us, just looking at her, it was clear that she had 4 girls she had to wrangle and get on the bus at a certain time, and that didn't happen. And so her husband, who was already sitting at the park with the other kids, is going, where is she? She said she'd be here an hour ago, She was trying to excuse the fact that she was running late. Think of it. People show up to work, hey, why are you late? Oh, there was terrible traffic. You're sitting here thinking, I was playing Angry Birds for like half an hour on the toilet this morning. Don't worry about it. Yes, there may have actually been traffic, but the likelihood is you've got a default excuse poor performance for most situations. And this is the same with other people. And I'm sure that the husband of this woman started asking her, well, why didn't you get them ready sooner? Why couldn't you do this? Why couldn't you do that? What good's that going to do you now? And it's still him going, I'm trying to fix this for you and prove to you that it can work. It's the same with remove responsibility. Y'all, that's the definition of insanity. Okay? Don't try to fix someone's problem for them. Make them fix it themselves by simply asking, how do you plan to improve next time? Don't be snarky about it. Simply, how do you plan to improve next time? All right. So I told you how to stop everyone and anyone from complaining at you. And I say at you because it's not really much of an interaction. It's more of an at. Now I want to talk to you about how you can stop complaining. So I've told you about all the things that are wrong with complaining. And I'd like to think that a lot of you are going, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. How do I make it stop? With this. So, as I said at the very beginning of this, 21 days is the magic number. I don't say that as in like a spell in Cauldron or whatever. It is the day that scientists have discovered is the number of days it takes to form a new habit. Don't believe me? Take your trash can, put it somewhere else. I guarantee for at least 21 days, you're going to go, gosh darn it, pick it up and throw it in the right place. Okay? So with this little band, it's very simple. You put it on your wrist, you're on day 1. And when you complain, which you will, if you go 21 straight days the first time, you have done something. So when you complain, you take it off, you switch it to the other wrist, and you're on day 1 again. It is as simple as that. So let me say a few things that I'm sure a lot of you are thinking. It takes 4 to 8 months to go 21 consecutive days. Now, this is not to say that this is going to be the hardest thing in your life, and I'm sure many people are thinking, oh, I don't even want to try it if it's going to take that long. I will tell you a side effect of doing the complaint-free challenge, whether or not you make it 21 days within 4 months, 8 months, or ever, if you are doing the complaint-free challenge, you will be happier, you'll be healthier, you'll be more successful, more positive, and eventually you'll be complaint-free. So let me tell you how the challenge has been going for me, because I am doing the complaint-free challenge, okay? Day 1. Day 1. Day 1. Day 1, day 1, day 1, day 1, day 1, day 2, because I was home by myself. Day 1. And then you get up to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're like, this is great! You just cut me off. Did you see that? Okay. But you know what? There's no shame in day 1. Day 1 is a good thing. You want to know why? Because you've caught yourself complaining. Like I said, if you go 21 consecutive days out of the gate without having any sort of issue, no complaints, no nothing, you did it wrong because you didn't catch yourself or you weren't being yourself. Life happens. You're going to get some curveballs, but it's all in how you look at it. If you're served cold soup, it is just as easy to flag down a waiter as it is to turn to the person you're with and say, how dare they serve me cold soup? So just think about who you're talking to and how you're talking to them, okay? So now I want to disperse a few things. First of all, if you take your bracelet and you complain, and so you switch it to the other wrist, the rest of the day is not a free day. You don't get to walk around and going, I get to complain, this is what, no. It's kind of like if you've already, ruined your diet for the day, you don't just get to eat junk food for the rest of the day. No. Stick with it. That's how you learn, that's how you grow, and that's how you get better, okay? Also, none of this, okay? First of all, that hurts. Second of all, if you break it, then... Well, if you break it, just don't complain about it, okay? This is not some sort of torture device for you to snap it on yourself, okay? It is also not something that you see someone else, and you see them complain with this on, you get to go, and you get to go tell them all the reasons why whatever they've done is wrong, okay? You are not the complaint police. You could use any of one of those 5 responses. What's going well? How do you plan to improve next time? You're not doing the complaint-free challenge for everyone in your office or in your household. You're doing it for you. And I will tell you a side effect of doing the complaint-free challenge is happiness. I have to say that because a couple years ago we got an email from a guy, and he was in, I think it was Botswana. And he sent us an email and he goes, I have been doing the complaint-free challenge for months now. I have not made it past day 5. And then in all caps, he goes, but I'm happier. And we're like, oh, that's great. Followed by, is this supposed to happen? If you do it right, yeah. All right, y'all. I've given you a lot of really great information today. Information that has touched the lives of 11 million people around the world. And with this information, you can do so much. So as you stand up to leave here today, you have a choice, as we so often do. You can continue with your life the way you did yesterday, and the day before, and the day before, and the day before, the day before. Or you can make the choice to be a happier, more positive, more successful, more healthier, complaint-free person. Choice is yours. Thank you.